March 1945. Western Germany. The war was nearing its end, but no one on the ground felt it. Forests still swallowed men whole. Roads still funneled patrols into ambushes, and the enemy was still deadly when underestimated. Lieutenant Jack Shettle stood at the edge of a narrow woodland track, studying a map already smudged with dirt and moisture. The patrol's task was simple on paper: move forward, confirm enemy withdrawal, report back. Simple missions were often the most dangerous. The forest ahead was quiet, too quiet. Shettle had learned to distrust silence. In training, quiet meant opportunity. In combat, it often meant preparation. His patrol moved cautiously. Boots crunched softly in damp leaves. Rifles stayed low but ready. No one spoke unless necessary. The trees closed in tighter with every step, limiting visibility to a few dozen yards at best. The terrain was wrong for comfort. Low ridges, natural choke points, dense undergrowth on both sides of the trail. Perfect ambush ground. Shettle slowed the patrol. He scanned the tree line. Nothing moved. No birds. No distant sounds of armor or artillery. Just wind slipping through branches. He felt it then, a pressure behind the eyes, the sensation that something unseen was watching. He signaled a halt. The men crouched. One soldier adjusted his grip on his rifle. Another wiped sweat from his brow despite the cool air. They waited. Seconds passed. Nothing happened. Against instinct, Shettle ordered them forward again. The mission still had to be completed, and without proof, caution alone could not justify withdrawal. They advanced another 50 yards. That's when the first shot cracked through the trees. A rifle round snapped past Shettle's head and buried itself in a tree behind him. Almost immediately, the forest erupted. Gunfire hammered in from both sides. Machine gun bursts tore through brush and bark. Men dropped instinctively, scrambling for cover that barely existed. Shettle shouted orders, trying to orient his patrol under fire. The enemy had positioned themselves well. Fields of fire overlapped. The trail had become a funnel. They had walked straight into it. German infantry poured fire from concealed positions, their discipline evident in the controlled bursts. This was not a panicked defense. It was a planned kill zone. Shettle realized the truth in seconds. This patrol wasn't being harassed. It was being erased. He crawled forward under fire, dragging one wounded man into shallow cover. Bullets snapped overhead. Bark exploded from trees inches away. Somewhere behind him, someone screamed for a medic. Then came the moment that would decide everything. Shettle saw the flank collapse. German soldiers were maneuvering through the undergrowth, tightening the net. If they closed the gap, the patrol would be surrounded completely. There would be no breakout, no escape. He made a choice. Shettle ordered his men to break contact and scatter. Small groups, different directions, move fast and don't stop. It was the only way to prevent total annihilation. Some hesitated. He didn't. Shettle rose just long enough to draw fire. He fired deliberately, drawing his attention to himself. German bullets chased him as he moved laterally, creating the illusion of a counterattack. The enemy shifted focus. That moment bought time. Enough for others to slip away. Then Shettle was alone. The forest swallowed him as he plunged into the trees, moving low, fast, and silent. He could hear German voices now, shouted commands, boots on leaves. They knew someone had escaped, and they were hunting. Shettle slowed his breathing and forced himself to think. He had no map reference now, no radio contact, no friendly lines in sight, only instinct, terrain, and the knowledge that one wrong step could end everything. Behind him, the ambush zone faded into the distance. Ahead lay miles of enemy-held forest. Lieutenant Jack Shettle had survived the trap. Now he had to survive the escape. Lieutenant Jack Shettle moved without sound. He kept low, letting the forest swallow him the way it had swallowed so many others before. Leaves muffled his steps, branches scratched at his uniform. Every movement was measured, every pause deliberate. He could still hear the Germans. They were close. Voices carried through the trees in sharp bursts of command. Boots crunched where no American boots should have been. The enemy was not searching blindly. They were sweeping outward from the ambush site, tightening their net. Shettle slowed his pace and changed direction. He had learned early in the war that speed without thought was death. Distance mattered less than deception. He doubled back briefly, crossed a shallow stream to break his trail, then angled uphill where footprints were harder to track. The forest became a maze of trunks and shadows. Shettle resisted the urge to run. Running made noise. Noise invited bullets. Instead, he listened. A patrol passed less than 30 yards away. German soldiers moved cautiously, rifles raised, eyes scanning the undergrowth. One stopped, another pointed. They spoke quietly, confidently. They believed they had time. Shettle waited until they disappeared, then continued deeper into the woods. Hours passed like this, hiding, moving, listening. Hunger crept in, thirst followed. His legs burned from constant tension, never fully straightening, never fully resting. He ignored it all. Survival narrowed the world to the next breath, the next step. As daylight faded, the danger increased. Night gave cover, but also confusion. Shettle found a shallow depression beneath a fallen tree and settled in, forcing himself to remain still. He did not light a fire. He did not eat. He did not move. German flares burst overhead in the distance, briefly turning the forest into stark white silhouettes. Each flare felt like exposure, like a spotlight searching for him alone. But none fell close. When darkness fully returned, he moved again. Shettle navigated by instinct and memory, angling towards where he believed American lines might be. He avoided roads and trails completely. Open ground was an invitation to death. At one point, he froze as voices rose directly ahead. A German command post. Lantern light flickered through trees. He could hear laughter. Metal clinked. The war, for them, was momentarily comfortable. Shettle backed away slowly, step by step, until the sounds faded. He was deep now, deeper than he had ever intended to be. By morning, exhaustion pressed hard. His movements slowed despite his will. He stumbled once, catching himself against a tree, heart pounding loud enough that he was sure someone would hear it. No one did. Late that afternoon, he heard something different. Artillery. Distant, heavy, American. It was faint but unmistakable. Hope sharpened his focus. He adjusted course and moved toward the sound, staying parallel to it rather than directly towards it. Charging straight for friendly fire was how men died just short of safety. As the sound grew clearer, so did the danger. German units were moving in the same direction. They knew the front was nearby. Shettle dropped into a drainage ditch and waited as a German patrol passed within feet of him. Mud soaked into his uniform. Water seeped through his gloves. He did not move. When they were gone, he climbed out and pressed on. At dusk, he reached the edge of a shattered field. Across it lay American positions. He knew them by the shape of the foxholes, by the sound of shouted English commands, by the rhythm of familiar artillery fire. He raised his hands slowly and stepped forward. American rifles snapped towards him instantly. He shouted his name, his rank, his unit. The rifles lowered. Hands grabbed him, pulled him into cover. Someone clapped his shoulder hard enough to knock the breath from him. "You're alive," someone said, disbelief heavy in their voice. Shettle nodded, too tired to speak. Behind him, the forest swallowed its secrets. The trap had failed, but the cost was still being counted. Lieutenant Jack Shettle did not celebrate his return.
He sat quietly as officers questioned him, recounting the ambush in calm, exact detail. Enemy positions, fields of fire, the moment the trap closed, the direction each man fled. There was no drama in his voice, only responsibility. Maps were spread out, timelines reconstructed. Intelligence officers listened closely. What Shettle described confirmed what American command had begun to suspect. The enemy was not retreating in disorder. They were setting traps, delaying advances, buying time. The forest had been weaponized. Because Shettle survived, those patrol routes were changed. Units were redirected. The road his patrol had been sent to scout was shelled instead of approached. Lives were saved because one man came back with the truth. But the cost lingered. Some members of the